Okay, so this is going to introduce you to our first geometry chapter, and this year we're doing kind of a combo chapter to get in the essential skills you need for two-dimensional geometry and three-dimensional geometry. So we are going to start with labeling the 2D shapes with their vertices, edges, and faces. So let's talk about what those three things mean. So when we're talking about vertices, we are talking about the points in the shape. So where every shape comes to a point. Some shapes are not going to have vertices, so let's label those, and I'm going to use my highlight tool. So a triangle has 1, 2, 3 vertices. A square has 1, 2, 3, 4 vertices. Keep in mind we're talking about two-dimensional shapes right now. A pentagon has 5 vertices. A rectangle has 4. And a hexagon has 6. So if you notice, the amount of sides it has are the amount of vertices it has. So moving on, we're going to talk about each shape's edges. And edges deal with a line on a shape. So when I go over to the triangle, I have 1, 2, 3 edges that connect to those vertices. In a square, I have 4 edges. In a pentagon, you have 5 edges. In a rectangle, you have 4 edges. And in a hexagon, you have 6 edges. So like I was saying, going back up here, edges are the straight line that connects your vertices. If you've noticed, I've done 2 of these, and we have not talked about the circle, because a circle has special properties. It has no vertices, and it has no edges, because there are no straight lines connecting any points. The last thing we're going to talk about are the faces of a shape. And when we're talking about two-dimensional geometry, every shape has one face. So the face is the flat side. So all of them have one singular face because they're laying flat, kind of imagining laying them flat on the piece of paper. All right, now we're going to talk about your three-dimensional shapes, which obviously should look a little different. And when we're in class doing these, I have some shapes that will kind of hold up, break apart. You can see how they would lay flat like a two-dimensional shape, which we call a net. But right now we're going to talk again about those faces, edges, and vertices, starting with the vertices. So if we look at the sphere, we can see there are no points on that sphere, therefore there are no vertices. When we look at the cylinder, there are also no points on that cylinder. So we are not going to label anything on the cylinder. When we talk about the pyramid, we can kind of look at it and we can see automatically that there are 1, 2, 3, 4 showing vertices. That does not mean that there are not more, because if you notice, A pyramid has a square bottom, so we're going to kind of write that over here to make a note. And with that square bottom means that it has another hidden side kind of down on this back side, which would give you that other vertices. So the vertices on a pyramid are actually 5. When we look at the cube is kind of the same way. When we look at that three-dimensional aspect of the cube, it kind of goes back over here and it creates another point that we're not really seeing. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 vertices on a three-dimensional cube. Looking at the triangular prism, kind of draw that unseen line in. Gives us another vertice. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vertices. And then the last shape is our cone, and if you notice, it has a circular bottom to it down here. So there is no vertice there, but there is one right here. So vertices equal 1 on a cone. Moving on to the edges. The edges are the connecting points between the vertices. So when we look at a sphere, we can automatically see going around that sphere that there are no straight lines. But when we look at a cylinder is kind of a special type of shape because it has a circle on the top and this circle on the bottom. We don't realize that in the middle we actually have a rectangle, because when we break apart the cylinder, it has this rectangle. Let's try that again. And then on top, it's like opening it up. We have 2 circles when we bring that cylinder into what we call a net. We'll talk more about this in class. So you technically do have 2 edges on a cylinder, right here and right here, that kind of enclose with those circles. So edges equal 2. The pyramid, a little easier. When we do that, we can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but we also have to consider the back edges. So 6, 7, 8. Not sure. Let's change the color on these to red so they match. Goodness, doesn't like me today. Taking a look at the cube, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 going around the center, 4 going around the top, and 4 going around the bottom. So that means there are 12 edges on a cube. Triangular prism, same kind of concept. 3 on the front, 3 on the back, 1, 2, 3 around the middle. So there are 9 edges. And then with our cone, if we kind of break that apart, the cone has a triangular piece that we kind of wrap around. Let's draw that a little better. Try the triangle again. And then we have like a circle on top of that triangular piece, okay? So when we technically look at this edge around the top circles around that circle just like that rectangle. So we say that it has 1 edge. And then last but not least, we have the faces. Faces are the flat surfaces that we're counting on these shapes. Spheres, they don't have any either. Cylinders do. They have 1, 2, 3 faces. Pyramids, when we break them apart, there is 1 on the bottom And then there are 4 going kind of around the outside. So 2, 3, it's kind of hard to write these in, 4, 5. So we have faces equal 5. The cube, think of it as a top, a bottom, and then 4 around the middle. So there are 6 faces on a cube. On a triangular prism, think of the front side, the back side. I'll mark those 1 and 2. And then around the middle, because you have a triangle, there's 3 more. So there are 5 faces on a triangular prism. And then with the cone, you have the top, and then you have the center. So there are 2 faces. All right, so go ahead and make sure you have that all on the front of your packet, and that is it. Also, make sure you bring that back to